We are back on, what did we decide this was? Una taza de café con mis amigos.
That will
Because
work.
we are sitting here with Dr. Maria Dolores Gonzalez, and you are with the Spanish Immersion program.
Yes, I have. It's Bilingual Strategies Language Institute, and we offer a Spanish immersion program. And this September and October, we will be doing a session, two sessions, one in September, one in October. It's 6 days from a Sunday afternoon to a Saturday afternoon. And the participants, those who are brave that will come and hang out for 6 days, will have fun learning Spanish from 8 in the morning till 8 at night.
Oh, wow.
And it will include all types of activities, cooking meals.
Todo en español.
Todo en español. Todo en
I
español.
love that. I
Dancing,
love it.
listening to good Latino sounds.
I could totally dance in Spanish.
Okay, that would be good. You're already qualified.
This is great, because I love this. This is the thing. I had to learn Spanish in school, like a lot of people.
Right.
And, you know, though it was like a thing my grandparents grew up speaking it here, but I had to learn it in school. And, you know, they're gone now, and I've lost all that immersion.
Yes.
And I can feel the language slipping away from me, and I think that's happening to a lot of us.
Oh, totally.
And is that something that, you know, these kinds of programs can help bring back?
I think so. I think the idea is to really help individuals understand how important it is to have the two languages. Somewhere along the way, we lose sight that being bilingual is really an advantage.
I think it's just cool.
Well, and it's cool,
right?
you know, from the different generations, right? So not only cool, advantageous in many ways, and it can be fun, but a bilingual mind is, you know, you have so many different opportunities in the sense of traveling or business.
Right.
Various things that you can do.
Well, I'm just a fan of being able to order at the food trucks properly. You know, I mean, that is, for me, it's the real basic stuff of being able to go to the food truck and know what I'm ordering in great ways. You
without
know?
hesitation or without making an error where you might get something you don't really want.
Right. That's exactly it. That's what I mean. You know, when I'm ordering the barbacoa, I know what I'm getting.
Yes.
And I love that. You know. But in New Mexico, I think there's always been an interesting thing with Spanish. There was a kind of a lost generation of people, wasn't there? And we were talking about that earlier, where for a lot of us, the family story is that grandparents or mothers and whatever else were not taught Spanish at home because it was considered something bad in school, right?
It was stigmatized, definitely.
Right. And how did you get over that? How did you know, you get into all of this yourself?
Well, I think I was one of those individuals. You know, Spanish was my first language at 6 years old when I went to school. Then it sort of faded, and it was sort of sad because I always felt I'd lost something. So when I went to the university at 27, I already had 2 sons, and I realized that they would lose, that it would be gone with me, with
Did
my
you teach
generation.
them Spanish?
Well, by that time, they had already learned English as the first language, so I did try to, I would label everything in the house in Spanish. You know, from the, in those days, it was a record player, you know, you had your turntable.
Toco de discos.
Toca de discos, you got it.
Yeah.
And so the refrigerator door was labeled with everything that was inside, and the toaster, and everything was labeled because I realized I was making up for what I had already not done. So I really started retaking back my language at 27, traveling. I went to many, many Spanish-speaking countries until I felt confident in it.
When did you think you were fluent in Spanish? So my sister lived in Spain, and ella, if I can say this, estudió en Córdoba. She studied in Córdoba, Spain.
Exactly.
And she said when she was there for almost a year, and said that she thought she was really fluent, really competent, and could have a conversation with everybody. And then one day, the host family that they were staying with, they're cooking dinner, and they started asking for her for all this stuff, and she realized she didn't know what the spoons were, and didn't know what the forks were, and didn't know what some of the other things were.
Because she had been learning the textbop Spanish, probably, or in the classroom.
Right. And then as soon as you start actually having to speak it, she was like, oh, wow, this is, you know, and a whole other world. When did you find yourself being finally comfortable and
when you can talk on the telephone, when you're in a foreign country and you have to communicate by telephone, that's probably one of the hardest things without stuttering and tripping over your own words. It's about being able to have a conversation on the telephone.
Yeah. And how do you do the switching in your mind? I mean, like, I've had a chance to be in other places, and you end up, there's like a certain moment you reach where you start thinking in Spanish or thinking in another language.
Right.
How did you get to that point?
Well, I think it's just the immersion, you know,
Yeah.
because I did immersion programs early on. And then when you started dreaming in Spanish, and it does happen, you start dreaming in Spanish, and all of a sudden you realize that you are internalizing it. And so you start feeling more comfortable and more confident about it.
Are those kind of stories you hear from people once they go through the immersion programs,
Yes.
that they start having those moments?
Oh, yes, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. And since I experienced it, I could understand, because I was just so excited when that started happening.
Right.
That I was dreaming in Spanish.
So there are some myths about New Mexican Spanish that you want to talk
totally,
about.
yes.
What are some of the greater ones you think?
I think the biggest myth is that New Mexicans speak 16th century Spanish. Yes, we have, and as you see on the screen, you have
Right.
the dictionary.
Yeah.
And in that dictionary, you're going to find a lot of different forms. We do have a lot of 16th century archaic, as they say, archaic forms.
Well,
in
the people who
Spanish.
came here in the 16th century, it's kind of like if somebody who was speaking Shakespearean English moved here and then got stranded here, essentially.
Well, if you think of it that way, however, they did come via Mexico
Right.
and came up through Latin America and into Mexico, and they also brought the Mexican dialect with them.
Right.
So New Mexico Spanish is filled with many variations. It has the 16th century Spanish from Spain. It has Mexican Nahuatl, which is Aztec, and then what has been developed here in New Mexico.
What are some of those interesting words?
Oh, well, let's say what I'm wearing is a blouse, and in Spanish today would be referred to as a blusa. When I was growing up, this was a cuerpo.
Oh.
And
yeah.
cuerpo is a 16th century form. However, and we all know, if people are familiar with Spanish, cuerpo is body. So where do we get that?
Right.
Another one is tunico for women. You know, I'm using feminine terms here, but a tunico for us was a dress, which comes from tunic, right?
Right.
But it's tunica, but that's a 16th century form. So there's a lot of, but then we have words like aguacate, which is avocado.
Oh, right, right.
So that's Nahuatl. Anything with ate, metate, things like that are
Right.
from Nahuatl.
Well, so my grandfather, he spoke this older Spanish, you know, and I know that the Spanish word for, pickup truck is camión.
Right.
He always used troca,
Of course. Well, that's what
which
you
is
call-
probably not 16th century Spanish.
No, it's not.
But
It's more
that's-
your 19th century. When did the truck arrive in New Mexico?
Right.
So, of course, because the people didn't have a name for the truck,
La
they
troca.
had buckboards before, right?
Right.
And so they had, wagon with horses or whatever. They had that word in Spanish. So when the truck arrived, they just transferred. That's called borrowing. We borrowed from English. English borrowed from us.
I love it. Well, we're going to be back at the end of the show. You're going to
Okay,
be back, and
sounds
you're
great.
going to share with us some trivia questions.
Yes, I am.
We've got some things, some myths about Spanish in the U.S. and some other things we're going to dispel a little bit. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Spanish immersion program. And we've got a fashion show coming up.
Oh, look
We've
forward
got
to it.
Miss Teen New Mexico just walked in. This is
Oh,
awesome.
wow.
All in the morning brew with friends. I mean,
Great.
la taza de café con mis amigos.
Muy bien.